My name is Aaron Houghton. I'm the creator of Founders First, where founders thrive. And today we are so excited to have with us Andrea Grisdale, founder and CEO of Italian destination management company, Italian Connection Bellagio. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for inviting me. Great to speak to you today, all the way from Lake Como.
Yes, our furthest guest from me here in Colorado for the show so far. This is great.
Great.
So I want to give everybody a little bit of background about Andrea and her exciting career before we kick off the conversation here. Andrea founded IC Bellagio in 1999, and it has since become Italy's premier luxury destination management company, winning numerous prestigious travel industry awards every single year. She's a thought leader within the travel industry, an executive board member of EO Italy, that's Entrepreneurs Organization, a group I've been in for almost 2 decades now, a huge part of my life, and a strong advocate for advancing women into leadership roles in the travel sector. In fact, IC Bellagio's leadership team is entirely female. And I was just reviewing your overall team on the website. Seems like it's almost entirely female as well. And then there were 3 golden labs, I think, on the website as well, right?
Yeah, female too.
all 3 female golden labs in the office. Incredible. In Colorado, we can appreciate a good dog-friendly office. That's awesome. So Andrea is a frequent speaker on the subject of entrepreneurship at colleges and universities, a mentor to many, and the supporter of numerous social programs and charities. She's joining us from her office on the shores of beautiful Lake Como, which makes us all very jealous that we're not there right now. So Andrea, thank you for your time, and we're so glad you're here with us.
Thank you so much, Aaron. And I chose not to show you what the view looks like out the window because it's the most stunning day today, blue skies, sunshine, and views all the way down to the snow-capped Alps. So I thought maybe not.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, just visiting your website, I hope everyone will do that, is a vacation in and of itself. Just beautiful water, beautiful mountains, beautiful wineries. Yeah, just gorgeous.
Yeah. You know, whenever I speak, Aaron, I love to explain, I think I have the best job in the world. You know, I get to eat, sleep, drink Italy each and every day. So not a bad industry to be in at all, and not a bad country to be in as well.
Incredible. Yeah, absolutely. So for our guests who are joining us live here, I want to give a little bit of background about how this discussion will go. So I'm going to ask Andrea a number of questions about her experience and observations, and then I'll open it up to questions. If you have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat section here in Zoom anytime. So drop it in when you think it. You're not going to interrupt us, and we'll pick those up at the end, and I'll pose them to Andrea when we get there. So I'll call for them again. So, with our entrepreneurial audience here, we always have really good questions. I want to kick us off with this concept of conquering self-doubt as an entrepreneur. We've found one of the biggest challenges for our members at Founders First and really entrepreneurs everywhere is self-doubt. 20 years ago, you decided to face the uncertainty of the entrepreneurial journey and launch IC Bellagio. Launching any business is a huge undertaking, but you did it as a foreigner in a male-dominated society in what must have seemed like a fiercely competitive market. I have to say that's a massively courageous move, and you've clearly turned that into a huge success. The road ahead must have seemed really daunting. So I want to ask, how did you get yourself mentally prepared for the challenges that you knew you would face in starting this business?
In all honesty, Aaron, I think character-wise, my WhatsApp photo is actually a statement that says, if somebody asks you to do something, say yes and work out how to do it later. And that's basically my entrepreneur journey. When the company began, I was, after working for a tour operator, and then I became a local guide and tour manager. Literally, I built up the business with the clientele under the umbrella of guide and tour manager. And then it was a case of people asking me, can you do this? Can you do that? And I would always say yes. Didn't have a clue what I was talking about half the time. They would say, can you help me in Positano? And where on earth is Positano? And of course, we didn't have Google on our phones way back then. Yeah. And so for me, this was never a job. It was never about the money. It was about enjoying the challenge. It was about saying yes, just really loving what I do and loving a new opportunity. And whenever mistakes were made, which obviously there were so many, I really learned, thanks to EO, to look at them not as mistakes and kind of beat myself up about it, but say, okay, what can I learn from this? And this is an opportunity here. There's an opportunity here. You know, in everything there's an opportunity. So, you know, as we all know at the beginning, you beat yourself up and think about what you didn't do. But I really was able to turn myself around and say, okay, hold on a minute. Let's concentrate on what you can do and then work out the rest later.
Yeah, it reminds me of, you know, in my kind of early starting software companies. So probably 2002, a friend of mine was doing like internet support for a local business in this town where I was a college student in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And he said, you know, one of the businesses he's working for is having a software problem with an online delivery. It was basically a service that allowed restaurants to deliver through their service, right? Restaurants that didn't deliver on their own.
Yeah.
So they had to have all these menus and ordering and pieces of it. And he said, oh, I can get you a meeting with them. And I was like writing very early software. Like I was very early in writing software and didn't know what I was doing, but I was, you know, the opportunity to actually help a real business with a real big problem popped up. And I jumped in and I said yes. And they said, also, the other person that's been trying to build the software has been working on it for 6 months and it isn't working. And we need it to work in 3 weeks. And I said, sure, I'll do it. And I think I didn't sleep for 3 weeks. They brought me donuts into my office for my team a couple times over those weeks, and we made it happen. So that's what comes to mind when your story of, yeah, can you do this? That was my same thing. Like, yes, I can do it. Now, what is it?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
3 weeks,
exactly.
like I don't even know how to do it. And if you gave me a year, I don't know how to do it. I have to learn.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, that's the way it was. And in all honesty, Aaron, yes, this is really a male-dominated society or country, if you like. But I also think, in all honesty, being a foreigner and being a woman was a huge advantage. First of all, here in Italy, different to our English language, you have the polite form of speaking and you also have the more formal form of speaking. Same in French and Spanish. And if I was Italian and I was meeting someone, especially if they were older or perhaps they were in a professional position, I would be expected to always address them using the formal form. Well, guess what? I'm a foreigner. I don't know any different. So I would always, and to this day, I always use the friendly form, which I get away with because I'm foreign. And it just gets me so much closer to the person, so much quicker. So, that what I was saying earlier about what could be perceived as a problem, don't look at it as a problem. Look at it as an advantage. Look at it as how can I make this into an opportunity?
Yeah, incredible. Our challenge actually for our Peakability members this week is about looking back on something that felt like a huge challenge in your past and trying to find some things you can be grateful for around that and positivity around that, which is, really interesting to think about. All right, so you've built this great business in a stunning location. You've got a great team working for you, a carefully cultivated network you engage for your clients, and then COVID hits. And this is the type of business that COVID is going to bother. This is not like digital software, remotely over the internet, nobody face to face, right? So you're in an industry probably that might be hit the hardest, and you're in Italy, which at least from our view over here in the States felt like it was the early epicenter where Italy is what got me scared about the virus, seeing what started to happen there. And, the situation was getting worse every hour in the beginning. Tell us a little bit about the moment when you realized how serious things were going to be for your business and what was going through your mind that might lie ahead for you and your team and the future of the company that you'd worked so hard to build. 1999 and then 2020, right? So 21 years into this company.
Yeah, absolutely, Aaron. So 2019, our best year ever, absolutely amazing, mega year, fabulous sales, great team, great company culture. Life was fantastic. Fast forward to the weekend of my 50th birthday. We left on the Friday night, 21st of February, having the best year ever once again. We were up like 30% on what we were doing at the same time in 2019. And by the time I get back to the office on the Monday, so 24th of February, it was quite clear that something that we thought was just kind of this little virus that came from China, and it was in this little kind of town south of Milan that could easily be contained and then would go away, was actually not going to go away anytime soon. And that's when we really started to receive lots of emails, lots of telephone calls, asking what the situation was. And we really went through that probably for about 2 weeks. I was actually due to leave to fly to Nepal and climb to base camp Everest on the 7th of March. We made the decision a few days earlier not to go because also, apart from COVID, the first 6 months of 2020, my future father-in-law was actually very, very sick and eventually passed away at the end of June 2020. So this was all going on as well at the same time. God forbid life should be boring, right? So the weekend of the 7th of March, Alessandra and I, we left. We went away for the weekend just to get away from life. And waking up the next morning in the hotel, we go for breakfast. We see all these people so angry, kind of mad with the world. And we're like, what on earth is their problem? You're in the most beautiful hotel on Lake Garda, the stunning views. And as we walked through the spa area to the restaurant, we kept seeing closed, 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 closed everywhere on every single door. And the receptionist who had greeted us the previous day, he explained that lockdown had been announced the night before quite late and they had to close the hotel. We were welcome to stay as long as we wanted into the afternoon, but we had to leave, and it was time to go home. And I can tell you that clients, including ourselves, were just sitting around the hotel in a total daze, not knowing what was ahead of us, and who would have ever thought what was ahead of us was actually going to happen. And we came home, and the following morning, I sat down with my CEO, and we had to make a very, very tough decision. I think it was a case of remove emotion. You're also talking to someone who's a huge people pleaser. And, I'll always, one of my probably good things and bad things is I'll always put other people before myself. So having to make a choice of putting people into a furlough scheme, knowing as well what their personal situations were at home, how important the job was to them, what was it going to mean to their lives for me to do this. It was horrendous. And we made the decision to keep 11 people on a task force. Those people were chosen for character and their skill set, and everybody else was put out into a furlough scheme. I think we were extremely fortunate to have that scheme, Aaron. Basically, it's the government assures them 80% of their base salary. And that is something that is still available to this day. And we still have those people out on furlough today. So it's been a year, literally. So that was that was the 9th of March. And the following day, it was a case of, okay, we've got to think strategy. We've got to sit down. We've got to get our objectives. What are we doing here? We actually managed to come up with 4 objectives. Don't ask me how, because I think I just went into automatic pilot those days. That we decided we had to stay positive no matter what. We had to be flexible. We were not giving up. There was no way this ship was sinking on our watch. It was kind of, we don't care, you will be dragging us out of this building, but we are not giving up, and keep the dream of Italy alive. And so that basically was the very beginning of COVID. As you rightly said, there were so many different messages coming out at the beginning. It was a complete and utter emotional roller coaster. What they were announcing at 9 a.m. was different at 12 noon, was different at 4 p.m., was different at 8 p.m. And it was one hell of a ride.
Yeah, I had a slightly similar experience in that I was away from home on the first days that things closed here in Colorado, and I was actually in a off-grid backcountry hut, like way up in the mountains, no cell service in the middle of nowhere, with a group of friends, and we did 3 days, 2 nights, and our experience coming out was really fascinating. We kind of drove, even just getting back on the highway, there were a few cars on a major interstate. We're like, this is a little weird for the middle of the week. And then we tried to stop in a restaurant for a snack on the way home, and every restaurant was closed. And we were thinking, well, we have to drive 4 hours. We don't have any food. We ate it all in the woods on this trip. And like, what have we just driven back into? Like, what do we miss? And all of our phones are, news of what's just happened in that, 72-hour period started to come in. And for everyone, we were all thinking, what is the next month, what is the next week going to look like? What is the next month going to look like? I remember feeling relieved that I didn't have to go anywhere anymore. Like
Yeah.
looking at my calendar, everything canceled. So that was good. Were you, I mean, at that time, you must be not just dealing with current clients that were in properties and on vacations, but everyone who might visit in the next 3 months is probably all calling at the same time, right? Everyone has the same question.
Absolutely. It was an absolute nightmare. I mean, the phones were ringing like crazy, emails nonstop, and everybody was looking for answers that nobody could give.
Yeah.
We couldn't give any certainty whatsoever. When do you think we can travel? If I had $1 for every time I was asked that question, and we honestly thought that our people would be home for a couple of months, and then at the very latest, our travelers would be back in the fall. Obviously, that wasn't the case. So literally today, Aaron, some trips have been booked and rebooked 3 times over.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So you were talking about a lot of these experiences in a TED talk that you gave recently, and you referred to that next stage as beginning chaos, that period after the new reality had sunk in as you're trying to figure out how to respond. And at that time, you're faced with some really, really tough decisions. You mentioned some of those with staff changes that had to be made immediately. It seems like this was the moment maybe you switched from that autopilot you mentioned into kind of resolve, kind of digging into the situation that's going to be here for a while and deciding how you're going to navigate it. Can you tell us a little bit about how tough that period was for you personally as the founder, the entrepreneur behind this business? How were you able to adapt and stay the course personally in the midst of all this trial tribulation? Yeah.
I think the one word I would use was determination. I was just never giving up, Aaron. I really wasn't. And in all honesty, despite the fact, there was often times where we would meet the accountant and he would, be looking pretty wide in the face and saying, oh, yeah, this is not like we're going to have a serious conversation here. My gut kept telling me it's all going to be okay. And that is another one of my learnings, over the years, Aaron. Even if I'm in a room and everybody in that room, I'm there with the smartest people on the planet are telling me something and my gut is telling me the opposite, I go with exactly what my gut is telling me. I did feel for sure a huge responsibility to the team and to our extended community, to our supplier partners in their livelihoods. And so we were just so determined, because we knew what our business means to these people, and there was no way we were giving up on them. We wanted to keep that business for them in the future. And so we just had so many conversations, talking to clients nonstop. And obviously with the time difference, we'd be doing our, if you like, admin duties through the day and then having our conversations in really late into the night. But it was just a level that we had to take responsibility. We had to be very transparent. People would ask the question, sorry, are you telling me it's safe to travel to Italy? And my response would always be, no, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you either it's safe to walk out of your house in the morning. All I can do is explain to you exactly the situation. And that's what we try to do, be really, really transparent, not only with our travelers, but also with our extended community.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, I think, a theme in there I'm picking up. Maybe tell me if this sounds right, in that, like, kind of, and I think as entrepreneurs, we often do this really poorly, like admitting that we don't control some things and that we do control some things, right? We can often, I certainly can drive myself crazy thinking I have control over something that I might be able to barely influence, right? I had a business in the past where I had huge suppliers on either side, supply and distribution. So I had Google as a partner on one side, and the big e-commerce startup Shopify on the other side of my product. And I was this little tiny startup company in the middle, and I was constantly banging my head against both of those massive companies, thinking I could have some sort of impact. And guess what?
Yeah.
It led to a lot of upset and frustration. So you're in a time here where you're really focusing down on the things that you can control. What's in that list? So people, how you talk to people. What else? I mean, you obviously can't control the virus. You can't control anyone's safety. They've got to make that decision on their own.
Yeah, I think also, Aaron, it was a case of, being communicative, keeping communications open.
Mm-hmm.
We use social media such a lot. We were posting at least 3 times a day, and we always found something very positive to post about. It sounds insane considering everything that was going on, but there was always a positive twist that we could put on something. We did a lot of Instagram live interviews with people around the country, just conversations like you and I are enjoying right now, podcasts, interviews for magazines. I was on TV. I was involved in a lot of industry panel discussions as well. I'm actually part of a very important governing body called the World Travel and Tourism Council. I'm their regional member for Italy. And they are the people who are lobbying the governments. So I was able to also speak on their weekly task force call and participate. And they were constantly keeping me updated as well, which was fantastic. So I could then keep other people updated regarding, our travelers and our travel advisors. 85% of our business is B2B. We did coffee catch-ups, we did virtual aperitivi with them, with our team. Daily huddles, of course, became even more important than ever before. And we also, set up a WhatsApp group with our IC Villaggio community throughout Italy, just keeping people informed. One huge difference, Aaron, which we actually learned during COVID, is to stop with those emails, pick up the phone and use Zoom as well. This is something I've been chirping on about for so long, and I was the worst person out of everybody, I can tell you honestly. But, nowadays we don't think twice about going on Zoom, whereas in the past it was always email, email, email.
Yeah. So what impact would you say that had on getting your team and your broader community of partners that you work with through the big challenge? You really made a big difference there.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust. And we just were, people kind of saw us as the people who they could go to and get an honest answer about, for Italy. And also, just looking at people in the eyes, even if it was via the screen, it just really kept up that connection. And as you know, we were all so lost. It was just such an incredible situation that none of us had lived before. And I think, just keeping that connection was just so important.
Yeah. What, as you look back on that time, any favorite, we don't have to talk details about names, but any favorite types of conversations that you felt like were really bringing a lot of energy to the folks that you were connecting with, themes and things like that?
We tried to make it fun. I think that's the thing, maybe even a virtual aperitif on a Friday afternoon. Everybody gets their beer, we're all on the screen together, and then just telling stories, of the crazy client stories that we had. And do you remember, when that client got locked in the Chinese restaurant, and, just those kind of crazy stories that we could all just have a light moment and forget about everything that was around us.
Yeah. I just finished reading this book called Deep Survival that's about the story of, people that get lost in the wilderness or elite military, people in really dangerous, really scary situations. And one of the big takeaways, even from the first couple chapters of that book, was this concept around how people use humor very intentionally in those really difficult industries where, they have moments like a lot of our business crises, every single day, people that deal with really, really tough things like this, emergency responders and search and rescue and whitewater rescue. And so there's a lot of stories about these folks. And one thing that was interesting that the author found as a consistent theme among these people is that they build sort of a language internally that allows them to talk about these really terrifying things they encounter on a regular basis in a relatively lighthearted way. And you could kind of look at it from a distance and say, gosh, like are they making light of these tragic events? And then I think after a minute, I realized you have to kind of if you live with this, or if you're living with this for a period of time, you have to start to find humor in it. And it's specifically a tool that's taught to a lot of these elite performers to help them not get too worried and bogged down in all of the disaster thinking, which would be very easy to bring up when you're in an actual disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. So something you've talked about, which I really appreciate, is how you saw in this challenge, and an opportunity to help others in your industry who lived in areas where the virus had not yet spread. That's something interesting I hadn't thought about. Right? It didn't just go everywhere all at the same time. So you had kind of pieces of your market to work with. Can you tell us what you did to help and what the impact was on you personally and on your team with that strategy?
Yeah, absolutely, Aaron. And this is where, I was really understanding what my why is. For me, making a difference to someone else's day or someone else's life really brightens my day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the fact that, Italy was in a position where after China, we were the first country to be hit.
Yeah.
So I realized once again, thanks to my EO experiences and the experience shares that we enjoy in Forum, that I could actually take what I had lived, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I could reach out to colleagues who do what I do in every other country in the world and say, hey guys, I've been there. This is what I did. Reach out to me, call me, talk to me whenever, whatever you want. And literally we were able to guide them in so many ways, terms and conditions. How did you handle your team? How you're keeping in contact with everybody? What are you doing regarding terms and conditions, cancellations, refunds, vouchers? We were able to share every single thing that we had lived, even how we were keeping in contact with our travel advisors, with our travelers, what kind of communication channels we were using. Everything we were able to share with them and truly make a difference and let them live this very, very differently.
Yeah, I remember our EO group here in just like the WhatsApp group for EO members here in the Colorado area. In the early days of the pandemic, questions, very legal terms and condition questions, I think were some of the first ones I saw. Most of our business contracts all have force majeure clauses in them, at least here in the U.S. I don't know if it's as common in. Yeah, and so we're all wondering, force majeure is like nuclear war and global pandemic and all those things we always laughed at as we read down the list. Well, that'll never happen. I'll ignore that. And we all realize, oh my gosh, like half of the things we rely on and half of the commitments we've made, maybe more of them have this clause in there. Are they any good anymore? Can we count on them? And to have members say, oh, I've already talked to my attorney about this. Here's the answer we got. Like just absolutely incredible. And then in terms of relief funding, which started to pop up in the weeks after that here in the States, same thing. And it was it was an absolute mad dash to try and get applications in here. Businesses were fighting to try and go to their bank and get a spot in to get an application in for federal aid, and the banks weren't prepared to handle the applications. And so there was this almost like war room going on in our EO group of like, Wells Fargo just maxed out all their capacity. So if you're with them, try this other bank now. They'll let you open a new account. And all right, that one's full. Go over to this one now. And I mean, it was just really fascinating to see the power of what a group of business people and I think we're both giving shout outs to EO and the power of the network there to be able to bring us together in that sort of way.
Yeah, and Aaron, one thing which was huge for me, my biggest competitor, someone who I've always politely said hi to in the past, but in all honesty, never really made an effort to get to know. I really got to know him so well. I mean, we're now great friends. We now actually travel together. And that friendship and that kind of togetherness was one of the best things I did during this pandemic, because who better to understand what we were going through? And just as you mentioned about your group that you shared all those ideas with about funding and things, he would call me, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Or how are you handling this? And, vice versa. And being able to work together and exchange all these ideas with him and also our other competitors or colleagues across the country really is something that has been second to none. And again, thanks to that group, we were informed about funding that was available, and, we were very, very fortunate to receive it.
That's really interesting. So folks that you would not have invested a lot of time in relationships with now all sort of bonded together through this challenge, and new relationships were created out of it.
Yeah. And also, Aaron, with the World Travel and Tourism Council as well, I literally reached out to them and said, hey, when things became a little quieter, and said, hey guys, I've got time on my hands. Who do you think I should get to know? And they've been hooking me up with people around the world who I would have never have had a conversation with had it not been for COVID. And some amazing things have come out of those conversations, including new business as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that the part of your team that you were able to keep on through this, kind of put on a task force. They didn't have probably normal client work to work on, right? Were they working on like internal projects and building infrastructure for the business and things like that?
They were working on booking and rebooking once again.
All the new extra
clients.
Yeah.
Also, a big thing that we were doing was really make sure that people knew exactly what was happening on the ground. So
Yeah.
when we were able to actually physically travel ourselves, we were out there and we were taking photos, we were taking video. And, as you know from your news channels in the US, if you watch CNN or you watch Fox and you're talking about the same story, maybe you get two very different sides to that story.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to show people exactly what the situation was. So we did as much travel as we possibly could during the last few months. And of course, continuous contact with the clients, but we also worked on new projects like virtual experiences, gift vouchers and gift experiences. We actually set up a new division of the company focused on the younger traveler. We've been working on some new projects regarding our villas as well. So we've been very, very busy. We have a great team here, Aaron. Our average age, I kind of make it go a bit higher, but the average age of our team is 32 years old. So we have amazing young people.
Yeah. So lots of ideas, lots of energy, and in this moment of sort of pause in the business, I'm sure a lot of those ideas probably came from that team that's on the front lines and has a lot of energy
Totally,
about building for the
100%.
future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. So taking that challenge and turning it into an interesting opportunity to build things that, all of us as entrepreneurs always say, oh, we're gonna build that, we're gonna get around to that. But this actually forced an opening where those things could be built, and even not just one project, but I think you kind of named like 5 or 6, right? Different areas.
Yeah,
of
totally.
investment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just love it. It just gives me so much satisfaction when, our guys, they come up and they work on these projects, they put so much into it. And then, I listen to them present perhaps to one of our clients, or maybe they're talking to a newspaper or a magazine or in an interview. And yeah, this is what gives me the satisfaction.
Yeah. That's incredible. All right, so to our guests, I've got a couple more questions for Andrea. If you have a question you'd like to ask her, now's a good time to go ahead and put it in the chat to make sure we get to it. So drop them in, we'll pick them up in a second. All right, so Andrea, in addition to what you've shared, there are some other things that you point to as key lessons learned, and even some positive outcomes from this whole experience. We just talked about a couple of those, but can you tell us what else you've learned about yourself through this process? You've had to guide this business through what would be like 100-year flood if it was nature, right? 100-year event that is not exactly like we can walk down the road and ask somebody else, what did you do the last time a pandemic came through? Those people are
Yeah.
How have you changed as a founder through this?
I think in a big way, I think I've learned to value myself more. One of the first decisions I made, which was a hugely incorrect or wrong decision, Aaron, I felt in the eyes of the team, one of the things I had to do was put my assistant in the furlough scheme, by showing that, I just thought it was the right thing to do in the very beginning. And obviously, we're all taught as leaders that we have to put our own oxygen mask on first. Yeah. So literally by removing my right-hand woman at the time when I was about to face the biggest obstacle of my life was really not the smartest move I ever made. So that is something that was a big learning, let's say. Also, less is more. Aaron, I don't need all the stuff. If you see all of the things we've gotten rid of here at the office and also our property, we had a second company car. We don't need it. We've been emptying our warehouse here at the office. Let's just keep the bare minimum of what we need and get rid of everything else. Completely declutter the company and make the company so much more leaner and also more efficient, but get rid of stuff and make our lives and everything around us so much lighter. That was fundamental, I think. Yeah. Also, the big one is the importance of my mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Taking care of myself first, because if I'm not in a good place, obviously I'm not in a good place to be able to lead people. Yeah. I also learned to listen, to hear rather than respond. I would always be going at 90 miles an hour, as all entrepreneurs usually do. And, but as I was listening to the person, I was already thinking of the answer to the next question kind of situation. So I've kind of learned to slow down a bit, not too much, but a bit. And the importance of physical exercise, without a doubt. It doesn't matter what is happening. I take time and I go walking and walk and walk because I'm in a much better place after that.
Yeah. And you mentioned that analogy I love around the oxygen masks first, right? And that's, if we don't have that energy and that capacity and that balance or the calm in the
Yeah.
moment when we need it, we spread that out exponentially across our organizations, right? Because
Yeah.
we have influence, executive amplitude. Everyone assumes that we're right, even if we're not. And so whatever we
Yeah.
say gets taken as word and spread around. If you're thinking about like maybe the month before all of these changes hit, and then, 1 month after, what sort of big changes? You mentioned getting outside and walking and being outdoors. Were you working more hours in the heat of this, less hours? Were you adding kind of other behaviors or habits that you didn't have before, or dropping some? I think about your kind of routine you used to get through it.
I think I was delegating much more, Aaron, to the task force team, and also listening much more, without a doubt.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, it literally was a case of we were working a lot of hours in the very beginning of COVID, for reasons that we were just around the clock, being in contact with people, and just literally showing that, we were still here, everything was okay, really coaching people and just talking and listening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure from your clients maybe that were stateside looking at what we were seeing on the news over there, to be able to just call into your office and hear that like everyone's still alive and everyone's there,
Yeah.
must have been a great
Yeah.
relief for a lot of people. And to your point, a stark difference than what we were seeing in a lot of the news and dramatic coverage of what was a bad situation. But yeah, incredible. So a big investment in communication, I think, is a really consistent theme we've talked about today.
Sure.
Kind of doubling and tripling down on making sure you had the people to do that, and just spending the hours and the cycles to be able to answer the phones and communicate with people.
Yeah. And be there.
Yeah, and help them be calm. Yeah. All right, so Andrea, we usually wrap up our questions with a request for advice you would share with other entrepreneurs. You've navigated this massive challenge over the past year and have come away with some great insights that can benefit entrepreneurs facing a variety of struggles. What advice would you give to other founders about managing themselves through times of crisis so that they and their businesses come out on the other side?
I think first and foremost, Aaron, huge responsibility to myself first and my own well-being. We just touched on that, how important it is. I don't know about you, but I was always brought up and told not to be selfish and not to think about me and to put others first. So this one for me has been quite a big one to learn. I've also learned to understand when I'm up and when I'm down regarding energy and mood swings. And also when I see it come in, I can also now avoid that. Take the time to get to know your competitors. Could be positive.
Yeah.
The importance of journaling really was fundamental for me on a daily basis, and writing down the moods, etc. Delegate sooner, for sure. And give these great people around you a fantastic opportunity. Use time like this to reach out and have conversations with people that you would never normally have reached out to. And something I'm actually going to do next week is take a break. I realized last week that maybe my answers were a little bit short and not so sweet as usual, so I'm taking a week out, and I think it's the best medicine ever. Yeah.
That's incredible to be able to see that. Someone shared in one of our sessions the other day around asking this amazing downhill skier about, if you're skiing really fast on moguls and you find that you're out of control, how can you get back in control again? You find that you're balanced. Literally asked about his physical balance. You're too far back on the tails of your skis and you realize you're out of control. And this famous skier's answer was, you can't. You have to stop, and then you can start again.
Yeah, totally.
That's a great analogy for what so many of us feel as entrepreneurs, where we get a lot of excitement out of our businesses, even when things are bad, and that excitement can pull us back in again. We know when we pull up our email or walk back into the office, there's going to be something interesting there, whether it's good or bad, and it's easy to just want the next one as the solution. Give me the next one. Give me the next one. And sometimes when we're off balance a little bit, we've got to step out and then step back in again. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Andrea, thank you so much for sharing your story and your great insights with us about overcoming these challenges. We're going to turn to our members and answer a couple of questions here that they would like to have us ask. The first question's kind of actually tease into what you were just sharing really nicely. How are you able to compartmentalize or process your own fears, anxiety, and emotions in the wake of COVID in order to make the hard decisions to save your business? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There's so much emotion and intensity in those moments. It's easy to maybe just kind of shoot from the hip or make decisions faster than sitting back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Aaron, even now, when you mentioned the TED Talk, I did the TED Talk about 3 weeks ago when I was actually practicing that day, just going through the actual speech. I was an emotional wreck. And I think it was the first time, honestly, that I relived what I've been through. And I think still to this day, I haven't emotionally dealt with it. It'll probably come out at some point. I think I am still an automatic pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And probably when our borders reopen and our clients, we see the travel will start up again. And we all know it's going to be crazy that day when it happens. That's probably when I'll have the opportunity to let go and take a look back over the last few months and really get those emotions out and deal with it. But right now it's a case of every day we've got to get through this and we've got to make it.
Yeah, yeah. We all do it differently. I remember one of my EO forum mates years ago in a forum I'm not in any longer. I was sharing a challenge and it was really emotional, and his answer for me was, just compartmentalize it, man. Put it over here and move on. And that wasn't how I was able to deal with it, but it was interesting to yeah.
Yeah,
That works. We all have different strategies. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think about, I see this in EO a lot. I see this in myself. I see this in so many business owners that are building great companies to a certain scale. And we get to, like our vision of what business would be like when we first start our companies is often like each year we're 30% bigger. And that
yeah,
continues forever into the future, right? And I remember this moment when one of my forum mates years ago shared with me, the reality of how most big businesses are built over 20 and 30 years is that they have good years and then they have flat years that are really painful, and then they have good years. And those are the best companies in the world, right? The
yeah,
multi-billion dollar conglomerates that started from zero. And then every other company, the reality for us is that we have these highs and lows. And as an entrepreneur, at least myself, it's easy to want to look at revenue. And if revenue is ever lower in one year than the last year, it's like personal crisis in my mind. If
yeah,
team size, right, or even office space, my beautiful office I have, or my X number of employees ever becomes half of X, I'm devastated personally. It feels like failure. And you've had to
yeah,
go through that in the last year. Can you tell us a little bit about the emotion around a bit of a reset, right? I mean, you did not
yeah.
project that 2021 you would have a smaller staff size than
No.
2019, your best year ever, right? There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, 2019, Aaron, we were 40 people, best year ever. And, between 1999 and 2019, I never had a year where we were lower than the year before. We've always
Yeah.
had year over year growth.
Wow.
So, showing a minus 95% sales in 2020. I probably haven't processed it right now, but I just, again, trying to see it as an opportunity. What do we want? And I've been able to see how much fat we had in the company. Did I really need that amount of people? It seemed like, we were going the long way around doing everything. So this has really been a forced opportunity to relook at how we do things. And I'm quite sure that the company will be a much more profitable, but a much more efficient company moving forward, thanks to the lessons that we've learned through COVID. So again, it's been a huge problem. It's been one hell of a challenge, but once again, seeing it as an opportunity as opposed to a few months of absolute hell.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a really beautiful and positive outlook you've been able to maintain through this. I think that's a
Yeah,
huge testament to the personal strength that you bring to this challenge. Not all of us can do that.
Yeah, but I have to say, Aaron, EO, my forum buddies, I'm very fortunate. I have both a local forum here, EO Italy, and I also have my international forum. We were all part of the EMP class of 2019. And they've just been incredible, so supportive, and the experience shares that, that I've learned and that I've enjoyed with them has just been second to none without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Yeah, that's one of my big takeaways from. I went through EMP. It's the Entrepreneurial Masters Program in EO for folks that aren't familiar with it. That's in Boston. It's a 3-year program, once a week over 3 years for entrepreneurs, and it was one of the neatest experiences for me for that same reason, which it was about 70% non-U.S. business owners, and for me as a U.S. business owner, it was incredible to meet these folks running businesses all around the world, and that perspective is just unreal, to be able to bounce an idea off of someone that has thought about their business, maybe due to their culture or due to constraints in different places in the world, differently from day one, and to run our problems by. Just amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. Camille says, thank you for all your knowledge and positive thoughts during this time. You are an excellent role model, exclamation point. Success in 2021. Thanks for joining us. And all right, last question here. So has your team shared with you their own observations of what they've learned from seeing you both pivot into a focus of helping others and rallying them to the cause as well? That's a great question.
No, they haven't. But once again, an opportunity has arisen. And this is something that I will actually ask them to work on and come back to me. And I will actually share it with you, Aaron. So maybe that's another conversation we can have.
That would be incredible. Yeah, it's really interesting to think about the perspective. That's a great question, Dan. All right, Andrea, thank you so much again for your time and your willingness to share. Yeah, this has been an amazing conversation, and one that I know I'm going to think about for a long time. We'll put a video of this discussion in our community platform here at Founders First, where members that weren't able to join us today can be able to view it, so we can continue to ask questions and have some conversation there, and it'll be appreciated by our whole community for a long time, maybe all the way to the next global pandemic, which let's hope is 100 years from now.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, Andrea, thank you. We look forward to keeping in touch. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.